What should you actually care about with AI? There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of hype. Are we going to lose our humanity? Is this the beginning of the end of the world? I built this channel to help dispel the noise, the hype, and have a focused conversation of the opportunities and then also some of the ways that you may need to be aware and specific actions you can take to protect yourself. Provide comments, feedback. I may build each of these topics into its own little deep dive, so would love feedback. So number one, your data. That is a valid concern with AI. And why should you care about your data with AI and large language models? Number one, if you are using a free tool, any information that you're putting in the chat, they're using that feedback to train their model. Like, why should you care? Why do you care if they train the model? I'm going to post this link to this video that just describes how large language models work. But essentially, large language models work on probability. And you're feeding all this information that's basically going to be part of their pool of information that it can pull from. So what could happen? Like, what's the worst thing that could happen? Let's say you're going through a conversation with a large language model. I know a lot of people have turned to ChatGPT or Gemini, Claude, and in replace for a therapist. And you're dealing with this really personal situation. There's a conversation back and forth. I've heard the example of like, okay, so you have a situation, maybe you're getting some benefit. That feedback loop is now part of the model, and you have no way to retract the information, and you have no way to predict on how that information will be used in the future. The likelihood of it being tied to you, probably low, but like who's to say that if someone's trying to identify ideas for a book, I need ideas for a book. Hey, here's a situation, it's emotionally charged, I think highly relatable, and it might be your personal story. So I do have a professional license with ChatGPT, and I started digging into data and, kind of concerned, especially with some of the news that came out with the Department of Defense and OpenAI and the legal terms where the Department of Defense moving ahead with OpenAI, whereas Anthropic had some very specific terms that they were hard on, mass surveillance and automated weaponry. That was a non-starter for the Department of Defense. So these are all legal terms, and for this reason, I'm moving to Claude. I'm going to step away from ChatGPT. But as I'm stepping away, I put in the chat bot, I'm like, what do you know about me? And it knew a lot, and I have been guarded. I'll post a document on how to remove memories from your large language model. But anything that I entered, I'm a consumer, it was trained on that data. Whether or not it's tied to me, probably unlikely, but it's jarring to know how much the large language model knew about me. And I'm working on projects and things that I care about, and what the question everyone has is, what will these companies do with this data? At the end of the day, they have to turn a profit. It's only a matter of time before this data will be sold. They can have paid advertisements in the responses. And I'm sure that there's legal ways that they'll do this, and some of the responses they'll have to flash, say this is sponsored. But they know so much that they could have a very close match to solve my problem and then make some money by connecting me with whoever's serving up that content or ad. Protect yourself. I'll post in the document that goes with this post about how to opt out of training the model. If you've already engaged with the model, you can't take that back. but going forward, you can opt out. 2, clear memories. I think sometimes it's good to have that like that working relationship, but I feel like it adds to the bias. 3, just this is awareness. Don't post anything confidential. Don't post passwords. Don't post financial information. Use it as a research tool, but kind of treat it like a public library. That conversation is owned by the AI company. Use that to direct what we will put in a large language model and what maybe you just need to put in a notebook and kind of, process. So that's your data. Ultimately, know that your data is being used to train the model. This is why most corporations have the rule that they will not let their data be used for training the model, and they usually have some kind of private instance. As a consumer, may not be in your budget or available, so just have a heavy level of caution of what you're providing to the large language model. Number 2, hallucinations. The different AI tools were trained to solve a problem, and they will just never stop. Like there is just like you cannot, it's really hard to, like if you're building software with AI embedded, there's just this root need to say, yes, I can do this. Highly confident. Yes, this is it. So you put this nice prompt in, you tell them their role, and they say all these things, but it's actually wrong. That's a hallucination. There's a high level of confidence, like, yes, you need to do A, B, and C, but is it actually true? Is it actually good? And I think that's where, in the age of AI, the level of judgment and discernment that you have in a specific area, that is your marketable skill. We all have to learn how to work with AI, be more efficient with AI, but prompting and getting a better prompt and a better result and ultimately discerning what is true and what is false is the key skill. If you have a foundation of knowledge or experience, it makes it that much easier. So just be aware of hallucinations. Back to what I like to do to help me feel a higher level of confidence in the chat. Again, I'm linking out to the video of how to have better prompts. The better the prompt, there's going to be a high level of confidence. If it's like an in-depth question, I always ask me follow-up questions to get to 95% accuracy. Depending on the problem I'm trying to solve, I may say, show me your assumptions, show me your thought patterns, show me where you've found this information if I want to fact check something. So those are ways that you can at least prevent hallucinations and possibly identify hallucinations. But again, it can get tricky if you're entering a domain that you're not familiar. How do you know that there's where there's a hallucination? We're doing a video on how to learn anything. And as you build up reps, I think that's ultimately what you want to build up is discerning for good and for truth in a specific domain. So we talked about hallucinations. There's a concern about a deepfake. Deepfake meaning AI generated content, video, image is just completely fake. The deepfake is someone can put, if there's video of you or maybe you're a public figure, you could create audio, you could create video that looks very realistic. And there is AI content out there. I've fallen for it. My kids help me. Like, this is so AI. Lean on your kids if you don't know something's true. Some of it's harmless. It's content that's gone viral, and someone's just putting stuff out there that's either funny or interesting, and it's AI generated. Where the real concern is impersonation. Again, someone can take video or audio clips of you, train at like all these very free or low-cost tools to build something that can have any text, but text to voice. Another example of kind of the concern around deepfake, banks have stopped allowing for, it used to be you could have voice recognition for phone authentication. That's going away because you can't trust the voice of the person on the other end. So how do you protect yourself from a deepfake or impersonation? I think there are pretty low cost web monitoring tools for the average consumer. If you are a public figure or you own a business, I would invest in dark web monitoring. It's really easy to do this, and so then the likelihood of this is increasing. If you are a business, they know that there are transactions floating across your desk of like $100,000 or more, and if they can intercept and impersonate you, it's a low-hanging fruit for an attacker to make a quick buck. I will do a deep dive on dark web monitoring. That is essentially how I would address the risk of a deepfake. And maybe just some general rules with your family of, either a code word or this is, if you're ever in trouble, this is what we need to do. Just so in case someone ever did impersonate a family member. The other concern with AI is bias. In my kind of tutorial video, we talked about how AI was trained, just big pools of data. All the data of the internet used to train the models. And the example of bias that everyone likes to use is clock faces and watches. And that's actually a tell for a deepfake or AI generated content. If it's 10:10, you almost are certain that it's AI generated. But why? Watch. All right, going up my hill. Watch companies, clock companies have typically, for years and years, if they're trying to sell a watch, the hour and minute hand will show 10:10. It's like an aesthetically pleasing shape. It shows the shape of the watch or the clock. You can see what the hour and the minute hand look like. And it's been kind of a standard. So if you try to create an image of a watch showing the time 4:21, there's so much bias towards all the images that it fed when it was originally trained. AI can hallucinate and will just still produce 10:10. Well, what does this mean for you? I think for bias, it's more awareness for the average consumer. But if I owned a business, I would just be aware of any AI adoption and consider that as a risk. If I'm putting in a recruiting tool, and this is the way that I'm ingesting resumes and matching resumes to a job, I would just want to really dig into how they are protected against that bias risk. Also, if I'm using it for outreach or if I'm using it for customer support, just understand how that specific tool or software has been trained and just ask the right questions, because you don't want to have that bias built into your operations of your business. And last but not least, job loss. There's a lot of concerns about all the white collar jobs they're gonna go away. 3 to 5 years, 1 to 2 years. This is the day you have to learn AI. And it's kind of like, not that I'm succumbing to the fear, but it's more of this is going to be part of life. And the more I understand about AI, the better I can provide value. So a lot of kind of fear mongering. There have been companies that have announced significant job reduction in force because of AI. But I think there's news reports stating that maybe there was a financial decision. Someone in finance wanted to drop some costs and they're just trying this out. And the companies tend to have to rehire because the AI tools are not providing the efficiency that are promised. I kind of compare this to, I've got another hill. Okay. So when we think about job loss or the economy changing, I compare it to the internet bubble, early 2000s. That's when I started my career. And as the bubble was bursting, I was lucky enough to get a really good job, had a really good trajectory throughout my career because of that job. But the thought was, there's not going to be any brick or mortar. Like, internet's going to take over. Everything's going to be online. Which, that was the sentiment. There were a lot of companies highly valued. And then, at the end of the day, a lot of them were not making a profit. And the bottom fell out. But now we're, 23 years later. You have seen a change in the economy. Scale has won. There's a lot of Amazon, Walmart, Target. They're basically providing fulfillment services for thousands of vendors to kind of connect them with the consumer, drop ship a product. It costs so much less than maintaining a brick and mortar store, and you can scale. Anyone that can reach the site and is shippable within, however you've distributed your product, super scalable. We have seen the effect of this. It's that much harder for the local business to stay competitive. They have to pay for rent. They have to pay for staff. They can't scale. It's just whoever is going to walk into their store. They have to trust that enough people will walk in the store and purchase in order to have a viable business. So we've seen that shift. But it took 20 years, not the 2 to 3 that everyone was predicting in early 2000s. That said, I've noticed, in life, the only constant is change, but the rate of change is increasing. So I'm not saying that nothing's going to change, and I'm not saying that it will take 20 years. I'm just saying it will change, but we don't know the rate of change in that cycle. Maybe it's 5. Me, my conservative view, I think 5 to 10 years, things will look very different. All these companies are shelling all this money into AI because they want to stay competitive. But if they don't see a return on this, will they continue to put an investment in AI to stay competitive if they don't have a return? It's just like a big question mark. At the end of the day, you need people. You need people. You need people to figure these things out. You need people to work with your customers. You need people to solve your problems. You might need less people. And that's just a big question mark. I'll link to this video. It's a little bit of a rant that I have for a little manifesto for my kids of what I would do to approach the changing economy and how to stay, marketable and ultimately solve someone's problem. Because that's, at the end of the day, I'm either providing value for someone where I'm employed, or I'm providing value to a customer if it's your own business. It's just kind of a model of thought to adopt. It's not about your salary, your title, politics. We're all here to solve problems and to create value. So just as a recap, we talked about your data and your privacy, how to protect yourself. We talked about hallucinations. We talked about deepfake, AI impersonations. We talked about bias, and we talked about job loss. I may have missed one, but I would love your feedback if you want to go deeper on one of these topics. Post in the comment. I'm here to learn just as much as you. And remember, consume less, create more, just enjoy your life.